Well, good evening, and let's start here in Nigeria. And just a few days ago, 90 travelers were declared wanted for violating coronavirus arrival requirements. The details of those in breach have since been released, and the Presidential Steering Committee says it will sanction the travelers by disabling their passports for at least 1 year, while foreigners will have their visas cancelled. The affected travelers who arrived in Nigeria from Brazil, India and Turkey between the 8th of May and the 15th through the airports in Lagos and Abuja were mandated to report to the nearest government health facility within the next 48 hours, but failed to do so. Well, for the latest on this development, Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed, who is the National Incident Manager of the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19, joins me now to just tell us where we are. Dr. Mukhtar, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program. And of course, let's start with the fact that where are we? I know that there was an ultimatum given. It says 48 hours. They all have to report, or else some will get their visas cancelled, whereas others will get their passport suspended for a year. How many of them have showed up? And by the way, why are we even having this incident? Because we have facilities, according to the protocol that was approved by the government, where they're supposed to head to directly from the airports.
Thank you very much, Amaka. Good evening, and thank you for having me on this program. So to start with, passengers who arrived Nigeria from any of these restricted countries, India, Brazil, or Turkey, or passengers who have been to these countries in the last 14 days before arriving into Nigeria, are required to go into mandatory quarantine in designated facilities. So what has happened is that some of the passengers arrived, whereas some tried to evade registering through our system, not being picked up at the airport. It was later we realized that they actually missed being picked up. Others were actually identified and were put on transit to go to the quarantine facility. Some of them vehemently denied, particularly those who arrived late hours. Others have actually reached the quarantine facility. Some of them have spent a day or two, but they decided and they eluded the staff of this facility and the security agents, and they just ran away and went back to the community. So we've put out this notice so that Nigerians will know that there are consequences for refusing to comply with this COVID protocol. And the consequences are, deterrents, meant to be deterrents also to other prospective passengers arriving in Nigeria. We're doing all this because we are really committed to protecting the Nigerian population and to also protect the passengers themselves and also their families, so that they don't go about spreading. Permit me to come in here, because we don't have the luxury of a long period of time to have this conversation. My question to you is, have they turned up, those ones who absconded, like you have explained, one? And what are we doing to avoid this from happening in the future? So actually, since our announcement, many people have turned up in various locations. I don't have an exact number, but in Abuja here, we have over 25 people who have come back to say that they actually want to be quarantined again, and they are within the period to be quarantined. But those who have turned up and are not within the period to be quarantined, we test them and we determine their positivity. If they are negative, we allow them to go, but of course they will be prosecuted, and then the deterrent measures will also be taken. This will include suspending their passports, and if they are non-Nigerians, they may have their visas or their residence permit revoked.
Absolutely. All right. Beyond all of this, can we explain, that's you now, explain to Nigerians the level of health risk, they pose to not just their immediate families, but to the rest of us, that's if they don't go into this compulsory quarantine facilities after visiting those 3 countries, namely India, Turkey, as well as Brazil?
So these countries we have restricted are not without any reason. We have scientific basis in terms of the number of cases, that they have in those countries, in terms of their positivity rate, and as well as the circulating mutants, which are variants of concern. So when you have this combination in a country, it really portends a very grave danger for people who visit those countries, because you are likely to pick up the infection. And if you pick up this strain, it means that you will come to Nigeria, and then that will spread. These strains are very dangerous. They have high transmissibility. They are more virulent, and therefore they can spread faster in the society. So that is the risk they pose. And what we are doing is to try to curtail or to mitigate this risk, so that we don't overexpose Nigerians to these dangers of having infection with various mutants.
Well, speaking about Nigerians, Dr. Mukhtar, there's been a lot of talk, especially on the social media space, about Nigeria that doesn't produce any vaccines, donating part of the vaccines that we got from either COVAX or even from the Indian government. There are reports that we donated vaccines to Togo and Ghana. Can you confirm this to us? And how many vaccines did we donate to these countries, and the rationale really behind donating?
I am not aware, Amaka, that we have actually donated even one single vaccine to any other country. So this is not something that I'm aware of, so I will not be able to discuss it further.
Well, the report is out there. The truth is, this report don't just suffice from nowhere. It has to come from somewhere. But since you say you're not aware, we'll move along right now. But the fact that one thing I do know is that there are countries that are destroying vaccines that have expired. I do know that the vaccines we have in country will expire, some in July. I know that the WHO says do not destroy vaccines that have expired. Still use them. But we're still countries on the continent destroy theirs. So my question to you is, when we get to that bridge, are we going to be willing to still vaccinate our people when those vaccines expire, or would we go the way of the DRC and other countries and destroy them?
Certainly, we have not reached there, but certainly we will not be vaccinating Nigerians with expired vaccines. We are doing much planning that is needed now to ensure that we have utilized all the remaining vaccines that are in stock. As you are aware, the second doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca has already started, and the people who have received the first dose are lining up now to receive their second doses of the infection. The way of the vaccine, sorry. The way it has been staggered is in such a way that we will utilize the vaccines that have closer expiry date. I know NPHCDA is constantly reviewing that and making them available for individuals who need to take their second dose earlier. And therefore, by our calculation and by our projection, we will not have any vaccines that will expire in our hands.
Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed, thank you so much for joining me tonight on the program. And of course, he is the National Incident Manager at the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19.